Yay! Welcome everyone to another Facebook Live here with Raj and me, John, for Coach Training EDU. And yeah, we're not. So yeah, we're live now. This is good. Everything's up and running. Welcome, Raj. How are you?
Hi, John, and hi, everyone. I just want to wish anyone who was celebrating Diwali yesterday, happy Diwali. I think it's a great time to set intentions and celebrate and kind of acknowledge how far we've come versus how far we have to go. What do you think, John? You deal with people from all over the world all the time.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of hope for humanity in certain respects, and then other ones I think, oh no, what are we doing? But I see there are so many sweet people all over the world, and I think I see a slice of humanity that I feel very hopeful of. So, listening to a lot of coaching lately, and it's amazing. This whole process is amazing. I can see the power of it and start to really like experience it personally and professionally. But you know, even more, I still am amazed at the power of this. So, yeah, let's jump in. Let's jump into some Q&A.
Yes, thanks, John. Okay, we've got some great questions today. So let's start with this one. Since we're talking about people and humanity and behaviors, we've had this question come in. And the question is, what do you do about or with a stubborn client?
Yeah, like a client who's stubborn to coaching or a client who's stubborn to doing action steps. Uh, we'll do both
Yeah.
because they're both similar. Uh, when I was coaching, when I was first starting out coaching and really had to take every client that I was working with, that was hard because there were clients who were very challenging. They were challenging to schedule with, challenging to work with, and I really couldn't afford to not take every single client. In those instances, I think you just muddle through and do what you can. I don't have any, and there's no single thing you can do with those. Just breathe and know do the best. I remember having a session where I was a client with my coach, and I brought this up, and I brought it up also from the standpoint of thinking, like, I don't feel like I'm at my best. Like I feel like I'm not operating 100%. And she said, that's okay. Like they're getting the service. It's not fair to yourself to think that you can be 100%, 110% every single time. As long as you're showing up in integrity, being present and doing your work mindfully, that's enough. That really helped. Then when I had a large number of clients and there was a client who was difficult or stubborn, I would invite them to leave and to complete the coaching. And I've done it not a lot, but maybe let's say 10 times over, with working with 40 current clients over 3 or 4 years. So how many clients I work with? Maybe 300, 250 in that period of time. 100 clients a year. That's maybe a little high, but you know what I mean. Like a lot of them. We'll say maybe 3% of clients I've invited to leave. A couple of them, I first were not very smooth and caused negative feelings, and I learned to do it more gracefully. So I just would invite them gracefully and offer other coaches instead. That would be my recommendation. Have you uninvited clients, Raj? Is this?
Yes.
Yeah, we've talked about this, right? Like yeah.
Yeah. And I think when we've chatted about this, we've thought about, and that's being courageous, isn't it? I mean, that is part of the essential qualities that you train coaches on in coach training year round. It's kind of being courageous. Um, some of the things that I've learned, I mean, I've had to close out agreements and partnerships, and this is not, doesn't sound like this is the right fit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps we need to kind of close this out. It's not the right fit, it's not the right timing. Sometimes it's about timing for people as well. And then I work with a lot of corporations, and what I'm finding more and more as we add one-on-one coaching to programs, sometimes you do have to think that maybe it's not the right timing, maybe the coach isn't the right fit, or sometimes individuals in organizations may not fully understand why they've been put into a coaching program, so they're resistant to it, you know. And I think the role of the coach is thinking about what they cover in the designing alliance. You know, this is what coaching is, this is what it's not. This is not about performance management, for example. And then I actually had somebody last week that I was coaching, because working with execs, sometimes you get high achievers, people who are resistant. They almost, who am I without behaving in this way? Because this has helped me to be so successful. And I had to be courageous and call this chap out. And we had to use some direct communication around the resistance.
Right.
What would you say about being curious about the stubbornness and resistance?
Yeah, I mean, I think the courage thing is there. And if you're on a corporate contract and you have to work with them, you have to work with them. And I think there's usually a reason that they are resistant. And I think sometimes they think, oh, there's something wrong with me. Like you're here to fix me, or you're going to go and talk to the other people about me and tell, you know, so there's usually a valid reason behind why they are that way. But at a certain point in time, I got to a point when I just didn't have patience for it. And I thought, we can do this. I don't need to. I have a lot of other clients, and your energy as a coach too is also important. And that needs to be protected. And that's okay. I was listening to a coach in Dubai. He was giving a presentation, and he said that he looked at it and he said, well, I want to become a better coach. Like, what do I need to do? And he said, well, it occurred to him that he needed to find better clients and get rid of the clients who are not making him a good coach. And that seems wild, like a wild perspective shift. But really, if you're only working with 40 people, you only have space to work with 40 some people as a coach in a full-time coaching capacity, you know, meeting every other week. So maybe doing 20 to 25 coaching sessions a week, which I would consider full-time. Then, I mean, that's not that many people. And so find the people who light you up. Find the people who you feel excited to coach in that space to coach. As your recurring client base. So I feel like it's in service to you. It's in service to your client base to do that and have those tough conversations. But I've been there, believe me, where I needed every single client every single time. And that's hard. Or I've been in situations as an executive coach where the company's paying me. I'm in there and the person says, well, what is coaching? Why am I here? You know, I've been in those situations too. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's draining, isn't it? It's draining to coach somebody who doesn't really want to be there, or perhaps they're not open to change. You know, I've had clients that have a fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And it's really hard for them to change what they think that they know. But what I'm hearing from you is value yourself as a coach.
Right. And I feel like it wasn't really fair to me or the organization. You know, it wasn't like really fair to anyone involved, you know, for this situation to be there, because, you know, the people who are paying me to be the executive coach, so I was being paid by an organization who's being paid by another, or like by the organization that was hiring the person I was coaching. So there were 4 people in this chain of executive coaching happening. And we're sitting there, and I feel like I have to explain I have to explain my profession or explain what I do. And it's met with deep skepticism. I mean, I told the people, I'm just not that interested in this, you know, and in other things too. We do a lot of programs with universities, and let's say a university will send, 14 people through all together. You know, like they send a group of 14. Then the first couple times we've done that, there'll be some people who were voluntold to do it. You know, oh, you're in, you have to be there, you have to get trained. And that, 2 people in a class of 14, can really make it hard for the whole class if you have two people who don't want to be there. So then we said, we can't do that anymore. If you're putting people in, you have to have some sort of application process or make it not, you know what I mean? You have to, it has to be like, I want to actively do this. And we have. And since then, it's way better. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. But again, if you need the clients and you have to muddle through it, my heart goes out to you. I've been there. I was there for years. I know it's hard. Just hustle. Find your people.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I'm hearing from you that commitment piece. So I think the only thing I would add is think about if you have your own business, you're sending out an intake form, what kind of questions you might ask to part of the vetting process. I mean, I never used to take clients on who wouldn't even complete the intake form because they showed me kind of upfront, you know, where people were at and some resistance they had to answering even those questions. I was like, oh, like, you know, this might be a bit, this person doesn't even want to answer any of the questions. Where is the commitment at?
That's so funny because I do not like intake forms at all.
How would I get you to fill one in then, John?
I avoid them. I don't like them. I really don't. It's an interesting thing. I mean, a lot of people do. And so I respect the intake form. I respect the process. And I think they are useful. I just want to put that out there. Just not for me. I don't like putting that. I don't like putting it down in writing is what I realize, and sharing that. I feel like it's really intense, like, you know, to share that level in writing sometimes, especially when you're leading an organization or have, you know, business relationships in different places. So I can see it, but intake forms.
I think that's really great that you shared that though, John, because that helps us to see different people's perspectives. And you've got the biggest growth mindset that I know, and it's something that you're not taken with the intake form. So perhaps it's something for us to all think about. Just because somebody hasn't completed it, maybe it's something else. It means something else to them.
Right. And when I'm working with a coach and they have one, I'm very clear on why. And, you know, I just don't not do it. You know, I'm very clear. So yeah, this is why I don't want to do this. Is that okay? And so, yeah, they're like, fine, that's good. But I also realize I have a responsibility to show up and have a very clear agenda of what I want to work on. So yeah, I mean, it just becomes, okay. So so there's an idea that Moise and I have been talking a lot about, which is the idea that you don't have to try to like skirt around the issue and still getting what you want. So there's an idea of, you know, just speak directly to it. Like, this is what I need, or, you know, this is, I mean, we're talking, you know, more, this has come up more with extended family, and thinking, okay, so it's just cleaner. Communication makes things clean. And especially if it's direct, clear communication, that gets to the heart of it. And so the heart of it is, okay, so what's the point of the intake form? You know, and if it has a real point, is there another way that you can get that information? And that's where I go with it, with coaches where I'm a client.
Yes, that's a valuable point. Thanks, John. And I do, when you get the intake form, it says very clearly, please complete this prior to your first session. It will help your coach be prepared and for you to get the best value out of your first session. So they know why.
Oh gosh.
I work with execs. Sometimes you have 20 or 30-minute sessions.
Oh, golly.
So it helps us kind of have the systems in place.
Love it. I love it. It's good to have a number. I mean, this is why it's one of the reasons why I love the coaching profession, because there's so many ways to do it. There is no, I mean, there are best practices, sure, but then you get very clearly into this realm of, okay, are we just a good fit? Like, you know, and you know, when you have a good coach, I mean, it just feels like, you know, your whole life becomes smoother. It's amazing how much mental, emotional weight people will carry, and just in one area, and think, okay, I can handle this. I can manage this. I can manage this. I can manage this. Again and again, every day, they're managing. They're not really thriving with it. And so when you start finding the coach that really works for you, that thing that you've been holding, you can let it go. Explore it, learn from it. Yeah, that's what I see. So it is worth the effort to find the coach that you click with 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, thanks, John. I'm going to move us on to the next question.
Thank you, Raj. This is fun.
So, John, how does a coach lead a client through the future self exercise? It's one of my favorite tools.
Yeah, I have a couple different ways that I do it as a coach. We have a recording where you can share the recording. It's about 7-minute visualization where you imagine yourself a certain number of years in the future, anywhere from 5 to 10, and then then coach around it. So that's one way, just having that recording or a visualization that leads people to that. That was my preferred way for a long time. I would have it on my phone. I'd have headphones, and I did a lot of coaching in coffee shops, and I'd have them listen to it, and I just would sit there for 5 minutes with them. That's one way. Another way is to have a worksheet and have them fill out a worksheet that's on the other end, where you just ask them, okay, so imagine yourself 9 years in the future. What's that person like? And they fill it out. And that's more on the less people who are allergic to visualizations side. And then you can go in between. You can do visualization light, and that's where I usually go. That's where I settle on now. Let's say I'm working with a client. I'll ask them to imagine themselves 9 years in the future walking in the door. Like, imagine yourself right now walking in the door 9 years, Raj, or 9 years, John, just sitting there in the sofa, like back there. What would you say? What would you do? Would you be mad? Would you be happy? Would you tell me, hey, get it together? Do it better? Or would he say, oh, you're doing great? You know what I mean? So that's my favorite. As you're listening right now, you can imagine your 9-year future self coming in the space. What would that be like? So I ask my clients sometimes which one of those 3 they want to do. I'm curious, you, Raj, which one do you feel like you gravitate towards, or how do you introduce clients to the future self?
I love using John's audio, by the way, everyone. John has a recording that he's done, and I have used that before with groups as well. It's just lovely because it means I get to do it as well. And I love the tool so much. Even now, John, as you're asking the question, it just takes you there. The question's so powerful, it takes you there. So a few different ways. I do love to use a recording. I have done it myself and just grounded someone. I do like to invite people when they're doing the visual to kind of just get grounded for a minute. And I've got feedback from people that they love to close their eyes and really enjoy it as an experience. As I've walked through it, I've used my own voice and walked through it instead of used the recording. And then I've just used it to ask questions like you just did. And I think, what I've recognized that people who are more kind of auditory digital maybe don't respond as well to visualization. Or when we've done the future pacing tool, we've asked them to do a recording themselves of future self. There are a few people I know that prefer a vision board versus a vision recording. So I think it's meeting the client where they're at with the activity, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a solid ground. Yeah.
Why is it so powerful in coaching, John, to use future self?
Yeah, there's a lot of research on this too. The positive psychology has looked at it's in positive psychology terms called future temporal modulation, which I think is just a funny word, like future temporal modulation. Basically, it's using your imagination to imagine yourself in the future. And the power of it, from my coaching standpoint, it comes from a new perspective. So you put yourself into almost like a bird's eye life perspective, and people often imagine that the future is going to be better than the present. So it's but that's just not, I mean, most people if you just look at humanity, most people are hopeful, especially if you move it out far enough in the distance. Most people are optimistic. If you move it like not too far in the distance, let's say 2 hours from now, most people are pessimistic. And when you also put things really far away, there's this idea, like, we tend to value what's the ideal, what's the perfect thing that, what's the ideal. As time gets closer and closer, then we look at, well, what could we do? Like, it's more like what's realistic, what's possible, gives way to, okay, so, like, you have to keep sacrificing until you get down to, what you only need to do right now. What's feasible. There it is. That's the word I'm looking for. So what's possible gives way to what's feasible. And I think our current selves often swim in the perspective of what's feasible. Our future selves swim in the perspective of what's possible. And so when you bring in that idea of possibility, multiple years looking in the future into your present tense, that's powerful. And then you also look at the relationship between future self and present self. To what degree do you feel like the actions you take now have no impact on your future self? Versus, how much do you feel or think that the actions you take now will have a direct impact on your future self? That's not an either or in the sense of like a huge digital, like yes or no, but it's more to what degree or what percentage of the time do you feel like those things, that your actions matter or don't matter to 9-year future you. And the reality is it's a mix. Some actions matter, some actions won't matter. And the research on brains, neuroscience says we are very terrible predictors of our happiness based on different actions. So there's that. And then there's also a lot of research that says the people who identify more with their future self, who think, yeah, I am, becoming my future self, they generally make healthier decisions, like go to the gym, keep track of finances better, eat better than people who do not think that they have a connection with their future self.
So I've actually had a couple of instances. Most people love the future self activity. I did have two occasions which surprised me that individuals didn't take very well to the future self. And one was an individual, I was coaching a special group, and there was some socioeconomic deprivation. And this person really found it a challenge to do that activity. And then there was someone else who had some kind of legacy or family illness things, and it triggered that. I mean, it was a great moment to coach and kind of work through that. What words of wisdom would you have for coaches who might find themselves in that instance?
Yeah, I mean, it happens, especially in groups, large groups, and I've done this with very large groups, like 200 people, large groups. And I preface it. I said, this won't be for everybody. And I wouldn't hold it too tightly. And those people, some people think, oh, I didn't see it. I didn't work for me. I don't like seeing myself old. I get that. I try to, in the visualization, tell people they look good on purpose for that purpose.
Yeah, I can hear it very clearly. I hear your voice. It's like John says, it's like, and you look good.
You look good. What's up? 9-year self, future you. You did great. Good job.
So, we've got a minute left then, John. What future self question might you leave us with today?
Thank you, Raj. This is lovely. I really, really appreciate your energy and time on this. With good future self question. I think I find future self to be, it can be a challenging exercise for clients if they aren't doing well or if things are really, truly hard. And it reminds me a lot of trauma, where the idea of trauma is this, it's a one-time learning, thinking that you're constantly going to be stuck in this pain. is one of the clinical definitions of trauma. And having the future self as an exercise is a way to break out of that. But then I feel like there needs to be a sensitivity, almost an honoring of the hard, like if or whatever is making it hard emotionally to get to that space. I feel like needs to be honored as well as moving away from that space. So I feel like the question is like, what would honor the space that you're in, and what would be the invitation to the space you want to be?
Love it. I'm going to journal on that.
Me too. I'm writing that down. All right. I'm going to take that one from me. Thank you,
Thank
Raj.
you so much,
Thank you,
John.
Diwali. This is lovely. Feels like there's some, the world, a lot of hope in this world. And yeah, the world needs more light. And appreciate you in all of this.
Thanks, John. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
See you soon.